What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron. We have something a little bit different for you guys today. I asked you guys, what did you guys want to see in this video slot? And I asked, top rookie sleepers, my mustache taxi squad ads, do not draft rookies, a bunch of kind of stock video ideas. And then one that I really liked was preparing for your rookie drafts and going through how I'm preparing for my rookie drafts and going through my, 9 to 10 dynasty teams that I have. And selfishly, I'm really glad you guys voted for that one. This has been something that I've been wanting to do and has been on my to-do list since the season wrapped up, where I wanted to sit down and, get an Excel sheet going, map out my teams and really figure out the direction of each of these teams. Am I tanking? Am I contending? How many rookie picks do I have? That's something else too. If you have like 5 2022 firsts per each of your teams, you should go out there in every single one of your leagues and start spending. Now, this isn't something that somebody with like 2 or 3 dynasty teams needs to do, but if you have like 5 or more, you should probably have stuff mapped out in an Excel sheet to just kind of figure out where your teams are at and kind of direction you want to go from there. Now, today, this is going to be kind of a longer video, and it's going to be kind of, I don't know, we'll see. I don't think this is going to be the last time I do a video like this. I enjoy kind of going through my thought process in terms of dynasty and strategy. So taking you guys behind the scenes and showing you guys my teams sounds like a fun idea, and it seems like just off that poll that you guys want to see this. But I'm going to go over pretty much the rookie drafts I've taken part in. I say 9 to 10 because I'm in 8 true dynasty leagues, Campus to Canton league, so that has like an NFL component. And then I have my 10th dynasty league, which is currently filling up. It's over with like the Ship Chasers and Pete Overzet. I'm not sure if I'm going to be staying in that league. It sounds like they might be kicking me out because it's kind of like a VIP thing. I don't know. Ben Gretch is supposed to be in there. And if not that, and I think I'll be in like group 6 of their dynasty tournament. Regardless though, I'm going to go over the rookie drafts I've done, the rookie drafts I haven't done, how I'm preparing for those, the trades I've made, the pockets within those rookie draft tiers that I'm really attacking, and the ones that I'm trying to, get the hell out of. So I think there's going to be a lot to be gained from this type of video. I know Scott Connor over at Dynasty Chill podcast, great podcast based on just like game theory and everything. I know he does have episodes where he kind of like talks about his portfolio and stuff. So this is kind of be like that. So I think you guys are going to like this. Now, one last thing, I really urge all of you guys to do this yourself and kind of, make an Excel sheet and get your stuff figured out on the back end if you have, 5 or more dynasty teams and you kind of play at a volume and have a portfolio like me. Now, with that being said, if you enjoyed this video, I really have nothing to plug for this video besides, hey guys, come check out my dynasty teams. Let me show you guys some really cool stuff pretty much. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure you go down below, subscribe, leave a like. Let's hit the intro. I'll come back on the other side and we'll get into the Google Sheets. Let's go.
Thirsty, trying to choose. I know I'm pretty cool. My nitty bag.
All right, so I told you guys that I have 9 to 10 dynasty teams. We're not going to go over every single one of them because we have one of them is in the middle of a Campus to Canton startup draft, so we're not going to talk about that one. We have the Crazy Ambassador series that has its own videos. We had a startup I did with Danny and the Stock Exchange boys that I already made a video on, so we'll keep that out because I already kind of talked about how I want to attack the rookie draft in that draft. So that leaves us with like 5 leagues to talk about here. Now, I believe I have 3 rookie drafts done. Of these 5, I have 3 rookie drafts done. One is like halfway through and the other has not happened yet. So you're going to get kind of a, all over the place in terms of what I've done in rookie drafts already and what I'm planning to do in future ones. Now, we're going to talk about our first league here, first of many to come, and we're going to get up in this view right here. And we're going to talk about this league named Dear Ryan and Joe Thank You. Now, the origin of that name is that we had 2 really weird owners come in. It's actually a pretty crazy story. We had 2 owners come in. This is one of the OG startup drafts we did last year, before I was even at like 1,000 subscribers. We had 2 guys in there that were just really shady. One left like midway through because he didn't know he had to pay 2 years in advance. It was just really weird. He traded like a future draft pick and it got all hairy, and then somebody else started being really weird in the league chat, and then he left. So their names are Ryan and Joe. So Dear Ryan and Joe Thank You, that is the name of that league. We found 2 replacements and it's been great ever since. But this is one where last year when I was joining these startups, a lot of the time I was doing productive struggle teams, and this is one of those teams. Now, you guys have seen lately I kind of go a little bit more win nowish. My idea is now is productive struggle is a very good strategy. The problem is in most places, a lot of people are trying to do it. So if you are like in an arms race to tank with another owner, it's not always a great move. And it's probably minus EV, where if you play in a volume of dynasty leagues where you play like 5 to 10, if you can just squeak into the playoffs, and let's say you can just make the playoffs you play in 10 leagues, you can make the playoffs in like 6 of them, you're probably going to be profitable on the year. So it should really just be gunning towards making the playoffs, especially in leagues where there are productive struggle teams, where instead of having to beat 12 teams to get into the playoffs like redraft, you got to beat like 8. I think that's probably the best way to go if you're looking to be profitable. If you want to have like the most like stacked juggernaut team of all time, you can productive struggle and figure it out that way. But this team came in last place. I stacked up my 2022 first, my 23 first. I came into the draft with the 101, 103, 104, 108, 111, 201, 208 in terms of my top 24 picks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 firsts and 2 seconds. Now I got to be honest with you guys. Again, I had a lot of productive struggles, and it's a little bit bittersweet. Or I think that's not really the greatest way to say it, but last year, if you did productive struggles and you stacked those 2023 firsts, that's great. Like with this team, I stacked up 323 firsts, as you guys can see, and 5 2022 firsts. The issue is, man, if you are sitting there in a productive struggle team and you're staring down 5 rookie firsts in this class, it's a bad spot to be in. I cannot stress enough, this is a very weak class. And if you're trying to, kickstart a productive struggle off the ground, I don't think the way to do it is to use 5 rookie firsts in this draft class. I know that we can only say so much in terms of how strong a draft class is before it even happens, but I'd rather not be super overexposed. Like the 2023 draft class, you want to take 6 23 firsts, fine, but you also don't need to convert that value on your team if you're not ready to compete yet into rookie players, because those rookie players can bust, they can flame out. You probably either want to get those put into better assets or just like 23 firsts and push that out further. So in an ideal world, if you have 522 firsts, even as a rebuilding team, you don't need to take all 5 of those players. In an ideal world, you are picking one to 2 times each round in Dynasty leagues, maybe 3 times. But I'm good on using all 5 of those picks, especially in a weak class. So every step of the way at this point, again, 101, 103, 104. I have 3 of the top 4 picks, 108, 111, 201, 208. Every step of the way, I got on the clock. Oh, I don't know why I'm scrolling. I got on the clock, and it was time to wheel and deal. I just didn't want to make all 5 of those picks. I wasn't in a spot for that to be a viable strategy. This is when we switch over to this Twitter thread that I made, and it pretty much. I'm trying to think if it's. It looks a little bit weird here, but this is a Twitter thread that just goes through all the trades I've made in rookie drafts so far. But the first 5 are all from this league. So the first one we have is the 101. A 2023 second, Terrace Marshall for Trey Lance. And we'll look at the team real quick. I was in a spot where, I had Kyler Murray, I had Zach Wilson. I didn't mind the QB situation, but I think everyone's goal in Dynasty should be, you want to have 2 like very elite assets. Or not, this isn't what everyone's goal is, but it's what my goal is. I want to have 2 elite assets at quarterback, because my reasoning behind that is there's so much scarcity, right? There's a reason why the first 7 to 8 picks in a lot of startup drafts, if you're in there with sharp people, are all quarterbacks rattled right off the board. They are super scarce. There's really only after like Trey Lance, Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott, after that it falls off to, Hurts, Stafford, Aaron Rodgers. Those guys aren't elite quarterbacks. So you want to stack up as many of those guys as possible at quarterback, because they're scarce. They're super stable. Quarterbacks aren't like running backs where their shelf life is like 3 years. They're not like wide receivers, where wide receivers have a longer shelf life, but they're not giving you difference making production for as long. But with quarterback, you have a position that they can be as productive as they've always been for 8+ years. And I'm not saying that you need them for 8 years, but they're always going to be super stable. You also get massive wins above replacement from that position, right? If you have, this team has Kyler Murray, Trey Lance, but say you have like Mahomes and Josh Allen as your 2 quarterbacks, you are getting the same amount of wins above replacement over your competition, or probably more than if you were to have like Christian McCaffrey and Jonathan Taylor as your running back. So you're getting that massive advantage over everybody else from a scoring position without having the fragility of a Jonathan Taylor and Christian McCaffrey, if that makes sense. So if you can, you know what I'm saying? Just if you could build a team around Christian McCaffrey and Jonathan Taylor, you'd be super dominant. But if you can build a team around 2 players that have as much impact week to week as those 2 guys, but at quarterback where they're not fragile at all, I think that's a really good way to sustain, long periods of contending in Dynasty leagues. Now, Trey Lance, on this team, which is a productive struggle, not really ready to win now, he gives me a massive, home run swing where if he hits what he needs to hit, he is a top 6 startup pick, right? And again, I'm not in a spot where I'm ready to compete. So transferring, that second round startup pick value from a Breece Hall at the 101 to QB is massive because I don't need Breece Hall. Breece Hall could just be Najee Harris, and he'd stay around that second round startup ADP. But Trey Lance gives me more wiggle room to really have that massive value gain. Where Breece Hall, he could maybe beat Jonathan Taylor after 1 year, but it would be really tough. Now, I gave up a 23-second. I gave up Terrace Marshall. Pretty happy with the deal, just to grease the wheels with the 23-second and Terrace Marshall. Really isn't the end of the world, but I think if you are in a spot like this where you're in a productive struggle with the 101, you can always just take Breece Hall. I'm not saying go out there and you must find a trade because you don't want to go out there and sell Breece Hall for 80% of sticker price. But if you can get a decent price on him, it's not an awful move. Now, I think that, again, if you're a productive struggle, if you're rebuilding, a good move is to move that 101 into one of Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson, Trey Lance, just to lock up an elite quarterback, have that set and ready to go for when it's time to start taking off, because then you can get your quarterbacks locked in place. It's almost like, I was thinking about it the other day, but it's almost like what's that one game, like Catan with Dynasty, where obviously there's a billion ways to win, but it almost does feel like you need to like lock in your points in certain spots, where if you can lock in quarterback, then you can kind of lock in wide receiver, you can lock in tight end, and then you can just kind of build from there, get everything locked in place you need locked in place, and win a championship. Now, obviously, you can have teams that are super weak at running back, but really strong at wide receiver and quarterback win as well. There's plenty of ways to win, but I do think that it is important that you kind of need to fortify something at some point. And I think with rebuilding teams, it should be quarterback or wide receiver. Now, something I kind of want to go in. I don't know why I just let that noise out, but a strategy tip I kind of wanted to talk about is when I'm squatting on the clock, right? Like I did with the 101 tier. I'll just send out a bunch of offers to managers, with assets I'm invested in. I know that sounds pretty crazy, but this is actually pretty crazy. But what I'll sometimes do is I'll see, somebody will last say something in the chat, or somebody will drop a player, and you can kind of see like the bubbles of who looked, right, and is actually active in the league. And I'll look at the 5 guys and I'll go to their teams and I'll say, hey, does anything make sense here? And I went to this guy's team. I saw Trey Lance. And what I did is I'll put this in the description, or I'll put this in the comments down below. If I don't, yell at me, tell me, please put this link down below. But this is what I'll do, is you can go into Adico's trade search tool, which is really, really good. And you can just put in Trey Lance on one side, 101 on the other side, and just kind of gauge what his price is. Now, you do see some that have, Trey Lance for, that is actually my trade right there, the Terrace Marshall 23-second 101 for Trey Lance. But you'll kind of see other spots where you'll see the one on the bottom where it's like Trey Lance 101, 201, 23-second. You can see Trey Lance in the 103 for the 101 and the 104, which sounds weird. That's like, I guess it's like a little bit. So you get Trey Lance, so that's actually less than 101, I believe. But then you have like 23 first and a 101 for Trey Lance and a 107. It's pretty much Trey Lance 101 and a little bit on top will get you Trey Lance. It's pretty much what that told me. I was fine with giving him a 20-23 second. I wanted Terrace Marshall off my team. If that greased the wheels, that greased the wheels. So that's what I went through with. But you can do this with everybody. If you wanted to, use the Deco trade search tool and you put the 101 on one side and you put Lamar Jackson on the other side. You can also just, if you're sitting at the 101 and you're like, I don't really know what this is valued at, you put in the 101 and just see what people have been trading the 101 at the past few days and kind of get a gauge from that and kind of see where you can kind of attack from that spot. And as always, nothing really makes sense. You can always just take Breece Hall. He is going to be a young ascending running back. He'll probably be valued next year. He's already there. Javonte, Najee Harris, whatever. He's already in that tier in terms of Dynasty ADP, but there's a decent chance that you turn around next year and he's in that, Javonte, Najee tier again. He's a very stable asset, which is fine for a rebuilder. Now, we're going to talk about the rest of the trades that we make with this team. Now, I kind of wanted a way to show the trades and, the team at the same time, which I probably should have got that set up. Hold on, let me pause this real quick. All right, so this is trade number 2 in this league. I had to take the sweatshirt off, got hot down here. But trade number 2, where I was at a spot where the guy at 106 really wanted to move into that top 4, right? He wanted to lock in one of those top 3 big wide receivers. You have Garrett Wilson, Treylon Burks, Drake London, whatever order you like. That is pretty much the consensus big 3 at wide receiver. And me personally, as a team, not really in contention. I think when you're looking to move back in the draft, if you can't get a quarterback, you don't want to move out of that elite tier, right? That 101 through 105, that is a spot where I really like to be in. You have the big, Breece Hall, the 3 wide receivers, and Kenneth Walker. Those are all assets I want. I think those guys have really good profiles. Their value's insulated. It's going to be fine if you use a rookie pick on that. I'm not looking to move from the 104 to the 106 and accumulate like a second, right? That it doesn't do anything for a rebuilding team. I mean, maybe you get a second shot in the chamber to hit on upside, but in this class, the 207, you're gonna draft Dameon Pierce or something on top. So instead of Jamison Williams and Dameon Pierce, just take a Treylon Burks, Drake London, Garrett Wilson. But if you can't turn that into obviously, we're not trading back like that to accumulate seconds. And if you can't get a elite quarterback out of a deal, at this point I already have Trey Lance. There's no reason for me to get an elite quarterback. The next thing you need to be doing, if you have, again, the 2022 first on a productive struggle team, you need to be looking to turn your 2022 first into 2023 firsts. That is the next best step. So essentially, I had my 104, and I wanted to trade into his 106, right? So move back 2 spots, and then also get his 2023 first. So then it's just doing the mental algebra of 104 plus X equals 106 and the 23 first. I'm going to be honest, in my head, the way that I calculated that algebra, I thought it was 104 and 108 for the 106 and 2023 first. He ends up sending me that same deal, but the 104 and the 111 for 23 first and the 106. I accept it right away. In my head, I value a 23 first at about equal to the 104, so he's swapping to get into the 104. Right, the 104 and 2023 first in my head are about even, so I pretty much straight up swapped my 111 for his 106. So very happy with that move. Ended up taking Jamison Williams, so that's a really nice home run swing at wide receiver. And I will pass up on the chance to take one of those guys in that big first, big 5 tier, if I can accumulate a 23 first like I did there. Now the next one we're gonna look at is trade number 3, where we have Breece Hall go. 102 is Drake London. Then I'm at the 103. Remember, we have the 101, the 103, the 104. I'm at the 103. I'm shopping around a little bit to see what I can get. I was cool with just taking Treylon Burks there, but I did kind of want to see, right? At this point, I have the 103, the 106, and the 108. I was looking to maybe trade off of 1 or 2 or more of those. Now, I will say in hindsight, I don't love this deal. I kind of do just wish I just took Treylon Burks on a team like this that's very young, not competing yet. I think it made a little bit more sense, but in my head, I do think that Deontay Johnson straight up, I have him ranked way ahead of any of the rookies. So if I can get into that kind of asset with my 103, I was into it. I think that Drake London's the only one that would have really given me any pause against Deontay Johnson. So I thought it was good value. I had plenty of picks to swing on upside later. I take Deontay Johnson. I trade the 103 out for Deontay Johnson. Then I come up 106. I told you guys, I took Jamison Williams instantly. My wide receiver 2 in Dynasty ADP. Also, by the way, I probably should have introed this first when I showed you guys a screenshot, but we have quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. We'll get into the projected starting lineup later. I have that sell key, which is soft red is soft sells, which is I don't need to move that player, but I would like to. Hard seller guys that I want off my team ASAP, trying to shove in the back of any deal possible. And then bold is just anybody who I'm debating cutting for roster management reasons. I also have all of the players are ordered by Dynasty ADP on Keep Trade Cut, so that's why it's Kyler Murray, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, whatever. And then I have the league format right above me. I should have went over that a lot earlier, but it's whatever. Now, trade number 4. We're sitting there at the 108. I think Olave goes. I'm staring down pretty much Sky Moore, Kenny Pickett. That's really it. Sky Moore and Kenny Pickett is what I was staring down. I didn't need Kenny Pickett. I mean, Sky Moore is interesting, but Sky Moore again, man. I love Sky Moore. I have him as my wide receiver. I think wide receiver 30 in Dynasty, but I got to be honest with you guys. I have been touting Sky Moore all off season. But it really does suck that he got this landing spot with the Chiefs, because he was really fun when he was going 203, 204 in rookie drafts. But again, I'm not saying he can't pay off. But when you're asking me to spend the 108 on Sky Moore, a guy I'm not even sure is a better prospect than Elijah Moore was coming out, it's tough. Now, if I'm sitting there, 101, can't get a deal done, fine. I'll take him straight up. It's not a big deal at all. But I go out there and kind of see what I can get for the 108 pick. And I go out there and I end up trading for Devonta Smith. And I give up, my 108 and 208 for Devonta Smith. He has great peripherals. He had a 21% target share, 76.8 receiving grade. He was an elite wide receiver prospect in my model. 15.2 average depth of target. So 21% target share on a 15.2 average depth of target, operating that far downfield with Jalen Hurts as your quarterback. It's really solid. I love the profile. I don't care about A.J. Brown. I'll buy the dip all day. I still have Devonta Smith as like a top 20 dynasty wide receiver. He is the real deal. And it's wild that I'm out here coming to bat for Devonta Smith when, I am the nerd and I didn't like him coming out. But it seems like all the film guys are now backing off. Okay, A.J. Brown is there. Devonta Smith is done. But I don't mind from Sky Moore to Devonta Smith paying a 208 to cover that distance. That's pretty much how I saw it. 208 to go from Sky Moore to Devonta Smith. I'm completely fine with that. Better prospect coming out. Had the best year one in the world that you could have possibly hoped for in that situation. Of course, Sky Moore gets the Chiefs, but I was good on passing that. I already got Jameson Williams, an upside swing in that same caliber of, he could just be not really difference maker at the next level. I'm a little bit more sure of Devonta Smith, so I go out there, I buy Devonta Smith, and then we have the last trade, is the 201 comes around, because now we only picked 106, and now the 201 comes around. We already traded away our 111, our 108 is gone, our 103 is gone, our 104 is gone, and our 101 is gone. We picked up the 106, and then at the 201, I'm staring down a tier that I'm really not in love with. At this point, we go from 7 top 24 picks to just the 106 and the 201. I will say in hindsight, I do kind of wish that I just took Treylon Burks at 103. I think it did make sense for this roster to get a little bit younger at wide receiver and just kind of take some swings on rookies. But I do believe that the value on Deontay Johnson was too good to pass up. I do believe the value on Devonta Smith was there. So it's not like they were bad trades. I do think in hindsight, this team in the spot that it's in probably just could have taken another swing. But at the 201, at this point, I didn't love the value. We had Pickens go. We had James Cook go. Or no, James Cook didn't go yet, but we had George Pickens go. We had Dotson go. I believe that Watson went as well. So I was staring down James Cook, Wan'Dale Robinson, David Bell. Cook doesn't do much for my team. I'm not trying to win now. I think James Cook is a player that, he's in the back half of the first round a lot of times because those contenders, they could use, James Cook, who could just have a massive year one, but I'm not sure he offers a ton for my team. Again, I was okay with taking him, but I ended up looking around. I flipped the 201 for Kadarius Toney, who I love upside case. I don't care that they drafted Wan'Dale Robinson. As much as I love Wan'Dale Robinson, I do just think that Kadarius Toney has a ton of upside. Brian Dable is there. I want a guy with a massive ceiling tied to Brian Dable. That's a bet I'm willing to take. And I only had like one share of Kadarius Toney across my 9 teams. So I was down to get another share. I fired up Kadarius Toney. Now I will say in hindsight, that was my first rookie draft. I've done, I think, like 3 or 4 since then. I will say at that 201 spot, I don't mind taking James Cook there. I probably should have taken James Cook there. But again, I think that was a fine trade. It was a fine move. I just wasn't really looking to take on those running backs. Now, when we look at the team, right? So the rest of the team, this is what is above me, all around me, whatever. At QB, we have Trey Lance and Kyler Murray. That's a locked and loaded, elite quarterback duo. We're going to have that locked in there till the end of time, essentially. Now, when I acquire these elite quarterbacks, like you're not getting them from me. There's not a world I trade one of them unless if Trey Lance comes out here and he's Josh Allen next year or Kyler Murray has an MVP campaign. If either of them have an MVP campaign and they become, the QB1 in all of fantasy, kind of like we saw with Lamar Jackson in 2018, then fine. I'll do that if I can get like something crazy like 4 firsts out of it, especially with like 23 firsts. If I can get a stupid amount of 23 firsts and it makes sense, fine, but those are guys I'm not looking to move off of. Now, you see Zach Wilson. He is a soft sell that I have colored in light red, but the important part is that I actually have him as a buy in the Dynasty rankings. I like his value. It's just I think that this team could use his value elsewhere, right? I don't think that this team needs Zach Wilson. Now, I don't think at all that it's a bad idea to just keep him and have an upside swing, because if Zach Wilson does become a top 12 Dynasty quarterback and he, I'm a Jets fan, so I'm really shooting for the stars, but if, he does his thing and he gets on that like Joe Burrow year 2 type trajectory, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but that pathway is there, I'll cash out then. But I also do like the idea of, maybe tearing down from Zach Wilson into a Mariota, Baker Mayfield type and seeing if I can get a 2023 first on top of that. So like Baker Mayfield and a 23 first for Zach Wilson. I'm not sure if that can happen, but I think that's a more efficient use of my roster value instead of having, a QB3 that is pretty solid. A lot of people will be pretty happy as their QB2 in Dynasty. So I'll see if I can flip him. If not, I'm comfortable just holding on to him for now. Now, this kind of takes us into what the direction of this team is. And I'll be honest, I'm not sure what the direction of the team is. If I'm being honest with you, this is why this exercise is so important, because you do just need to look at what does my team look like right now, and the way that you can kind of do that for 2022 is by looking at their 2022 ADP. And what I do is I put these guys up there based on their underdog ADP. Get in the little graphic out here. I love doing this where it is so crucial to understand where your team is at for 2022. Understand, how does your team look? And I do that by using underdog ADP. They have, drafts going on. We already have Best Ball Mania 3 going on there, $10 million in prizes. I'm trying to win that. I got my ring over there on the counter. I would go grab it, but I'm here at the mic. Bigger fish to fry. But a lot of really cool things going on underdog. I'm telling you guys that mock drafts for 2022 aren't the move. You're in there in like sleeper drafts, and there's like 14-year-old kids in there auto drafting, whatever. You hop in underdog, there's money on the line. You can get in there for as like cheap as like $5, and all the ADP is super reactive to what the market is telling us. There's real money on the line. This is the most accurate representation of expectations for 2022. So if you're new to Best Ball, you want to hop on there, use my promo code Ron. When you deposit $10 or more, they'll match your deposit all the way up to $100. So if you deposit $25, they'll match $25. Boom. 2 entries into Best Ball Mania 3 for a chance to win millions of dollars at the top. Now, what this does for us is it tells us, we have 2 top 12 options at quarterback. We have Kyler Murray's a QB5. We have Trey Lance QB12. Wide receivers deep, right? We have Deontay Johnson, Michael Thomas, Devonta Smith. Now, when we're looking at like wide receiver through flex, ideally, if you have 12 people in your league, you have a top 12 wide receiver, a top 24 wide receiver, a top 36 wide receiver, and then through your flex, ideally, I personally like using wide receivers in my flex spots, but in your flex spots, you then want, so from 36, you want, I got to think of like my multiples. You want like 48, pretty much your flex spots, you want to be like around somewhere in like the 30 to 50 range. The better, pretty much. The higher or the lower, the better, pretty much. And here, we're deep at wide receiver. We have options. We have Jamison Williams, Claypool, Kadarius Toney, maybe Rondale Moore can mix in. Maybe Nico Collins or something can be like a Michael Pittman next year. You have Curtis Samuel. There's a lot there to like at wide receiver. We have, again, locked and loaded elite QBs. We have locked and loaded elite tight end with Kyle Pitts. We haven't even mentioned yet Kyle Pitts, tight end 3 for 2022, which is really good. The only issue with this team is that we don't have a top 12 option at wide receiver. We have Deontay Johnson, who I believe is going to be a wide receiver 1, but the market believes he's wide receiver 15. We don't have a difference maker at wide receiver, and we just have nothing to show at running back. Now, this is sort of where it gets tough for me, right? We have no meaningful running backs. We have Marlon Mack at RB1, and that's pretty much it. And ideally, you want to make the playoffs every single year again, right? Every single league, I want to make the playoffs in just to kind of squeak in and then kind of do my thing from there. Now, this team is probably a top 12 option at running back and wide receiver away from sort of contending here. The only issue is how I could go about acquiring them, right? The issue is I have 3 2023 firsts. I don't really have any wiggle room to make a move like that where I get a top 12 wide receiver, top 12 running back. I have no plans of moving. Those 2023 firsts will stay on my team. Now, I think if I could, get into a top 12 running back or top 12 wide receiver, I could, move. I think Zach Wilson's movable. I think Albert O is movable. I have Albert O as a soft sell, by the way, just because I'm so overexposed to him. Across my 9 teams, I probably have him on like 6 or 7. He's just someone I stashed away a ton last year, and I'm looking to, offload at this point. But I think I can sell Zach Wilson, Albert O, a 2024 second could be something in there, like a Nico Collins, Rondale Moore, Amari Rodgers, Diami Brown, if that moves the needle for anybody. I do think like maybe like an Aaron Jones, a Keenan Allen type could maybe get me there. So I haven't chosen yet what I'm going to do, right? In terms of should I maybe get a piece or two and just try and maybe limp into the playoffs? I don't know. I'm not sure, right? Again, I can either sort of stay as is and sort of finish bottom 5 and, just look to compete in 2023, or I can try and, patch this thing together and limp into the playoffs. So I'm really not sure yet. I'm also part of the reason why I'm even doing this is so you guys can kind of, see what my teams look like. I can kind of think out loud here and just sort of, hear your thoughts. So if you're out here, you're listening, you're watching, you can go down below in the comments. I should probably take the underdog banner down. You can go into the comments. Let me know what you're thinking. I don't know. I do think that an Aaron Jones or Keenan Allen, if I added it to this team, it probably wouldn't do a ton for it. I think it's probably one or two. It's probably not 1 or 2. It's probably 1 year out from being competitive. But again, where I lack those top 12 options at running back and wide receiver, I have Kyle Pitts, Trey Lance, Kyler Murray. Those guys might just drag me into the playoffs themselves. I think that we kind of underestimate how much win above replacement value you can get from your quarterback and tight end. So it's tough. I think we're just going to kind of have to see how it plays out. Now, I will say we are 30 minutes in, and I've only covered one team so far. So that is a rough look. I'm not sure if we're going to get through all 6 teams. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe I'll do like a part 2 or something, but we'll get through the second team for sure. And we're going to talk about this league, which is Twitter Dynasty Best Ball League, or that's what it's called, the Twitter Dynasty Best Ball League. And it's with a bunch of like guys that you guys probably know from Twitter that I'm in with. I know A-Nelly Lytics is in there. I believe some of like the C2C guys are in there, like Alfred and Jarek. I'm butchering his name, but like Jarek Backus or something. Really cool guys, really fun team. But this is a best ball league, so that's important to know. So it's 12-team Dynasty Best Ball, 0.5 PPR, Superflex tight end premium, but it's kind of a weird format where you guys can see the starting lineup. It's one quarterback, or no, it's super. So it's quarterback Superflex, but then it is one running back spot, 2 wide receiver spot, a tight end, and 4 flex spots. So that really props up the value of wide receiver. You ideally do not want to have a ton of good running backs. Now, this is a team where we are firmly contenders, and I really love this team. We have at RB1, we have the RB2 in redraft ADP in Christian McCaffrey, the wide receiver 1 in Cooper Kupp, the wide receiver 4 in Devontae Adams, the tight end 5 in George Kittle, the RB12 in Fournette, the wide receiver 30 in DeAndre Hopkins, which was much more juicy until he got suspended, the RB30 in Kenneth Walker. We have the wide receiver 41 in Hunter Renfrow. We have Garrett Wilson, Christian Kirk, Albert O, David Njoku, Tony Pollard, all providing splash weeks off the bench in a best ball format. This is a very strong team. Now at quarterback, we have Deshaun Watson, and we have Derek Carr. I have Derek Carr as a screaming sell. I do not like Derek Carr at all. I think that you are paying, like I've seen him go 4th round in startups. If you can get 4th round startup value from Derek Carr, you need to do that. There is no difference from Derek Carr to like a Tom Brady, Kirk Cousins, who go in like the 6th round of startup drafts. I don't see it, but this is a rare spot where I think he actually makes sense for this team. He stacks with Hunter Renfrow and Devontae Adams. So if you can correlate his boom weeks, especially in a best ball, I think that is probably the move. So for now, I'm keeping them intact, but if I can, move Derek Carr or Hunter Renfrow for a price that I like, I'm into it, especially Hunter Renfrow. I think that Derek Carr to Devontae Adams, I can keep that intact, but Renfrow can go whenever. Now, in terms of the rookie draft, we went into this rookie draft with 0 picks. I'll admit, I kind of botched the startup a little bit. I kind of got very lucky to hit on Leonard Fournette and to hit on Cooper Kupp, guys that I got really late that really accrued in value. But this is a spot where I traded away all of my 2022 first, all of my 2023 first to go out there and compete, or my first and seconds from those leagues to go out there and compete right away. I competed right away. I made it to the semis, but that's about it. It's very tough. Even if you have the best team in the league, your odds of winning it all are like not even a coin flip. I think it's like 25% chance if you are the 1 seed to win it all, which is crazy. No matter how strong your team is, about 25% of the time you'll win it all, even if you are, bye week, went undefeated in the regular season. Just crazy things happen in the playoffs. So I think going all in like that and being very aggressive with draft capital isn't the best move. Now, again, very likely to hit on Kupp and Fournette, but this offseason I was staring down a team that had, remember, Deshaun Watson was not on this team yet. I traded for Deshaun Watson in the offseason, but I was staring down a team with Derek Carr and Daniel Jones. Daniel Carr, Derek Jones, and Zach Wilson, no difference makers at quarterback, and no picks in 2022 or 2023 with a ton of aging players like D-Hop, Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp. So that's a very scary spot to be in, where you don't have any elite quarterbacks, so you don't really have that like scarcity, drive the trade market kind of idea, and you don't have any youth coming in. You don't have any youth on the roster, and you don't have any youth pumping in from your rookie draft. So that's a really tough spot to be in, and that's what kind of, got this trade going for me. And here I traded away Justin Jefferson, who obviously I love, but I have plenty of wide receivers, and he was like that young stud for me. But I needed to get an elite quarterback, and I needed to get younger, so I traded away Justin Jefferson, James Robinson, Zach Wilson, and got Deshaun Watson 104 and 106, who the 104 turned into Garrett Wilson, and the 106 turned into Kenneth Walker. So essentially, I value Deshaun Watson in the same tier as Justin Jefferson, so trading away Zach Wilson and James Robinson for the 104 and the 106, I would do that all day. Garrett Wilson, Kenneth Walker there, really, really great as well. So I love that deal. Again, needed to make that move, get help at quarterback, get younger. So that's just what needed to happen at that point. Now, I would have liked to, I took Garrett Wilson at 104. I took Kenneth Walker at 106. I would have liked to acquire 2023 first. Again, this team has nothing in 2023. but couldn't get it done. This is a analyst league. Everybody's sharp. Nobody's really trying to get rid of those 2023 first. I will say I had one on the line where if Kenneth Walker didn't go, if did Jameson Williams go 105? I think Jameson Williams went 105. I don't know. Somebody weird went 105, so Kenneth Walker fell to me at 106. I don't even like Kenneth Walker, but if you're going to give me Walker at 106, I will take him. I had a trade in place where if Kenneth Walker didn't fall to 106, I could have done the 106 and Renfro for a 2023 first, which was really juicy. So like Jameson Williams and Renfro for 2023 first. I think that if you make that Kenneth Walker and Renfro for a 2023 first, I'm really not that interested in it. That's why I didn't take it. I kind of do wish that Kenneth Walker was sniped from me and I could have made that deal, but instead I went Kenneth Walker. Now the team here is one of my more defined teams. It's very simple. Its direction is win now. Has almost no holes. You have an elite tight end. You have an elite quarterback. You have McCaffrey. You have stud wide receivers. I'm not sure that this team really needs much besides, the sells that I highlighted in Renfro, Christian Kirk, Amari Rodgers as guys that I just don't really love their values. And then also Alberto, again, only because I'm just super exposed to him and then also already have an elite tight end there. Just nobody's really paying what I want for Alberto, and that's fine because I'm just higher on Alberto than everybody else, so I'll just be holding on to him until he does become like a top 5 tight end in Dynasty. Now, I do think this is one of my few teams where I'd be happy with kind of how the team looks going into week 1, right? If the season started next week, I'd be completely fine with it. But I will say, I think that this team could use, one more top 12 wide receiver option, especially with the DeAndre Hopkins suspension. So if I could maybe get a Mike Evans, a Keenan Allen, 2 top 12 wide receivers in redraft ADP, I think that move would make some sense. Now, moving on to our next league, we ran through that pretty quick. What was that, 6 minutes? Okay, so the rest of them will be pretty quick. That first one I wanted to dive deep on because I had like a bunch of trades I made during the startup. I had 5 rookie picks, whatever. This, I don't know. We'll see. If this takes an hour, let me know if I'm rambling, if I should have cut it into 2 parts. I don't know. This is the first time that we're doing one of these like portfolio type videos. I'm welcoming all feedback. I'm sure that you guys will have plenty of sort of ideas for how I can do this moving forward. So I do think that it would be fun, maybe once every 2 months, every 3 months, I hop on here and do like a Dynasty portfolio video and update you guys on a couple of my leagues. But then this is called the Mickey Mouse League. And the reason it's called Mickey Mouse League is because this guy, absolute goof on TikTok, I believe he's like Fantasy Football AZ. He saw that Jonathan Taylor went like 2 picks past ADP and he called it like a Mickey Mouse League, even though it's a pretty sharp league. It has me, Jacob Sanderson, Danny from Fantasy Stock Exchange, Dynasty IM from the Bulletproof Discord. I believe Akash is in there. I'm trying to think who else is in there, but those are the only guys that can rattle off the top of my head. Now, this is an analyst league. I don't know what I just said, but this is an analyst league, and this is the most running back heavy you'll ever see me. So please do not take a screenshot of this team. I know me, a renowned wide receiver fader. I know you guys are seeing a lot of these teams. You're like, where the hell is this guy's running back? I had Marlon Mack as my RB1 on one of those teams. This is a room that was full of wide receiver hungry analysts. Again, Jacob Sanderson's in there, one of the guys who pedals 0 RB with me on Twitter. Here's the thing, man. If you're going to take, if you're going to start reaching on wide receivers and we're going to start seeing like Rashad Bateman in the late 5th and, just kind of like crazy takes like that and, Michael Pittman in the 4th round and you want to do that, I'll zig when people zag. I am just, somebody who really does try and draft by the mantra that one of the GOATs, Mike Lou, who quoted one of the GOATs, Bruce Lee, in that, you stay water, man. If people are going to just give you screaming values across the board at a position that nobody really wants, I'll take it. I drafted Nick Chubb and David Montgomery in this draft at value. You'll see, I don't have those guys anymore. I'm telling you guys, you can just take the best value on the board a lot of the times. Just trust yourself in trade talks. Even in an analyst league with Sharks, I got those players off of my team. Those are players I don't want on my team, but I will take them at the discount if I can just trade them away later. The players you don't, I know that I'm kind of going off a tangent here, but the players you take in a startup, you are not bound to those guys for life, right? I know that you guys know that I'm not a big fan of like CeeDee Lamb or Jalen Waddle. I've taken Jalen Waddle in like 2 startups this year. One of them I went around and I turned around and traded him after like a week that the startup draft passed. You can take players that you don't love necessarily just to you never want to take a guy at the 3. Let's say that CeeDee Lamb is staring you down and T. Higgins is staring you down. I have T. Higgins over CeeDee Lamb in my ranks, but if I'm sitting there at the 306, CeeDee Lamb, his ADP is like the 208, 206, 204, something in that range, and T. Higgins is like a late 3rd in most startup drafts. I'm taking CeeDee Lamb there because I can turn around and trade CeeDee Lamb for a T. Higgins type and get like a plus on top, or I don't even have to do that. I can just hold on to CeeDee Lamb and, offload that value elsewhere because you just turned your 306 startup pick into a 206 startup pick in terms of market value. Right now, I know that you can kind of get into like the micro things of in that dynasty draft, if CeeDee Lamb falls to 306, then his value is to 306. But people don't understand is that, yes, that player was picked there. But if you wait like 2 weeks after the startup draft, everybody forgets where everybody was picked. They don't know that, oh, I drafted this guy 2 rounds ahead of him, whatever. Everybody sort of forgets at like a few weeks after the startup draft, and you can kind of make moves that way. So guys you get at value, even though the room didn't value them at first, everybody starts to drift back towards the market the further away you get from that startup draft. Now, that was the tangent. Let's reel it back in for a second. And I had a lot of running backs that I wanted to offload, right? David Montgomery, I traded him away. Another guy I didn't like is Nick Chubb. And Nick Chubb is a player where he is always going to hold value because he's very good at what he does. He's an elite runner of the football. He's a very good running back, probably like a top 3 to 5 running back in real life. He just doesn't catch passes, which isn't great for fantasy. He is much more of a high-end RB2, back-end RB1 than he is somebody that will ever, compete for a top 5 running back season, top like 20 point per game type season. I talked about this last offseason. We'll talk about it again, I'm sure, at nauseum this offseason. But when we draft running backs, they are so fragile. They get hurt all the time. Things happen to running backs. They can fumble and get pulled out of a game. What it comes down to with running backs, to take the risk on them, they need to have a path to top 5 upside. Because if they don't have a path to top 5 upside, they're no better than a wide receiver. So Nick Chubb to me doesn't have that ceiling. I think he's a little bit overvalued. So I wanted to move off of Nick Chubb. Now, I didn't take Jonathan Taylor in a startup. This is how I acquired Jonathan Taylor. So we're going to show this screenshot. And this is how I acquired Jonathan Taylor and got rid of Nick Chubb. Something else I've been talking about a lot, either on like live streams and other stuff, is that DJ Moore is one of my favorite players. I have him very highly. I have him as like wide receiver like 8 in Dynasty. He is one of my favorite players, one of my biggest buys. I have him as a hard buy in the Dynasty rankings. But I think it's important, especially with DJ Moore, right? If I'm in like a subscriber league, I know you guys love DJ Moore. I love DJ Moore too, but if I can offload DJ Moore to, benefit my team from a structure standpoint, I will do that all day long, right? I will have players like a DJ Moore where, especially in an analyst league like this, every analyst out there who's like sharp loves DJ Moore. I know a lot of them have like DJ Moore as like a top 5 dynasty wide receiver. You can sell him for better than sticker price in those leagues. So if I can kind of bait you in with a DJ Moore and, offload a Nick Chubb, right? With this deal here, a lot of things are happening for my team. Let me see if I can kind of move this down. But I was in a spot with this team where I had Nick Chubb, who I don't like. I think he's an extremely overpriced RB2. We've went over that. But my quarterback 2 was Kellen Mond. I couldn't roll into the season with that. Again, in a league with analysts, they're all pretty sharp. They're all similar-minded to me where they want to have 2 elite quarterbacks. I was going out there, I was sending out offers where I have all these first-round picks, everything, trying to snag up a Lamar Jackson, a Kyler Murray, everything like that. Those guys are the cheapest they'll ever be on the day of the startup draft. You can just trade away like a second and a third startup pick for a 1 and like a 6, and you can get access to those like untouchable assets, right? So that wasn't working out. I didn't want to just go out there and just trade for Aaron Rodgers straight up. So this does a lot for me, right? So I go out there, I get Aaron Rodgers as my QB2. I get Jonathan Taylor. And I also hate the 106 to 112 part of drafts. Now, there's only two pockets I like. We talked about this earlier, but I like the 101 to the 105. I will sit there and I'll make my pick all day, no problem there. Now, I know in that first one, I didn't make that pick, but in this one, I made it at the 104. A lot of the times, I will make that pick unless I just have like 6 first-round picks, and it makes sense to get rid of half of those. Again, Breece, Walker, London, Burks, Wilson, whatever order besides Breece Hall being RB1, right? Whatever you want. Those guys are all elite players that I feel very strongly about their profiles. I think that they're going to remain insulated, very good assets in Dynasty. Now, that next tier, I think it's a very steep price to be paying 106, 107, 108 for Jameson Williams, Sky Moore, or Chris Olave. They all feel like in most draft classes, right? If they came out last year, they would have been late first in those draft classes. I'm not sure that. I mean, I guess they're in the tier of like Elijah Moore, Jalen Waddle, like late first, but they do feel more like late first than mid first. So that's just kind of where I want to get out of there if I can flip them, because I do believe that, like say the 107, you can trade that at the price of the 107. But once you put a player to that 107, it is a little bit of a letdown, right? Chris Olave at the 107 doesn't feel amazing, right? Last year at the 107, you were taking like Kyle Pitts or Javonte Williams, which even then was like there are difference makers on. You could get Travis Etienne at the 107, right? You're not getting even close to that same value. I think that really like the only Javonte Williams, the only I'm not going to say Kyle Pitts, but like Javonte Williams, Travis Etienne type prospects, you're only getting them in the top 5. So if I can move out of there, I will. And I also don't mind like sitting in like Though I did say I don't love the 106 to the 112, but I don't mind sitting at like the 109, 110 and seeing if one of those guys fall to you. I think at the 110 or 109, if you can get a Jameson Williams, a Olave, or a Sky Moore, that's a great use of that pick. But I think like 106, 107, it's a very steep price to pay for those guys. Now, the next pocket that I really like is the 201 to 203, because you can just catch a falling Christian Watson, Jahan Dotson, James Cook, and Rashad White. Those are the 4 guys that I really like at that 201 to 203 spot. If you can guarantee one of those guys, that's an early second well spent. I think that those guys I think that those guys are strong early seconds. Now, I also don't mind the like mid to late second where you can kind of catch a falling David Bell, Wan'Dale Robinson. But again, I'm trying to move out of that like 106 to like 109-ish range. And I'm trying to move out of like the mid to early second. So like the 204 to like 206, I'm not a huge fan of. So with this move, reeling it back into this move, I get out from under. I had a bloody nose earlier, so I don't know if there's like blood under my nose. But with this move, the whole utility of the move is that I get out from underneath Chubb. I get out from underneath the 107 and the 108, who ended up being Kenny Pickett and Chris Olave. Really not like sad about missing out on that at all. So give up the 107, 108, Nick Chubb, and we get to get a quarterback in Aaron Rodgers and a difference-making running back in Jonathan Taylor. So we pretty much tier up from Chubb to Jonathan Taylor. We get a quarterback for our team in return, and then we also had to give up DJ Moore. It sucks. I love DJ Moore. I don't want to do it, but again, if I have to grease the wheels to give you DJ Moore to get, a quarterback, get rid of Chubb, get rid of those firsts, I will do that deal all day long. We also got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who I think is a great throw-in as like a, somebody in that like Devin Singletary range of things where he's on a really good offense and he has a ton of upside. So I love this. I love this deal. For once, you'll see a really stacked running back room here where we have the RB1 in Jonathan Taylor in terms of 2022 ADP, the RB14 in Saquon, which is just way too low, RB27 in Cordarrelle Patterson, RB28 in Clyde Edwards-Helaire, RB29 in Miles Sanders. So we have 5 top 30 options at running back, which is just absolutely insane. Now, I love, again, we're really trying to assemble a win above replacement in terms of these leagues where you want to have like multiple elite assets, because like a team with like Patrick Mahomes and Jonathan Taylor, you don't need to have much around them to just limp into the playoffs. They will take you there. They are going to have spike weeks. They're going to play really well. I think that we kind of forget about that, there's very few elite like 20 point per game type players in fantasy. If you can capture a few of those on your team, you will get carried to the playoffs. I had teams that were pretty ugly where I actually went like Jonathan Taylor, Saquon in the first 2 rounds, sort of botched some picks, and Jonathan Taylor will carry you there. Same thing happened last year with Cooper Kupp, with Deebo Samuel. I know those guys are a little bit later, but if you can lock in, difference-making players at those positions, you're looking very good. Now, with JT and Mahomes, you're kind of locking in that same like JT, Christian McCaffrey type dynamic, but instead it's JT and Patrick Mahomes, 2 top 2 guys at their position. So really excited about that. Now, this is, again, a really weird team for me. I'm actually weak at wide receiver here, right? We go into the rookie draft with literally 3 wide receivers. And this is something else. I'm going on a lot of tangents here. I hope this all makes sense to somebody out there. But this is a really weird team for me. Going into this rookie draft, I had Tyreek Hill, Tyler Lockett, and Devontae Adams, 3 wide receivers. Now, I really harp on that with these teams in Dynasty, you want to have as few of those roster clogging wide receivers as possible. I do not draft Tim Patrick. I do not draft Mecole Hardmans. I do not draft Russell Gages. I do not draft anybody in that area that even sniffs that area. I want, top, if you're in a 12-man league, I think after like wide receiver 60, you really don't need to be touching those guys. Pause. But I think that you can just get the running backs and everything. So usually my wide receivers are just like top heavy and they're not like super long lists. I think that guys that have like, you'll look around in the Dynasty League and guys will just have like KJ Osborne, Scotty Miller, Tim Patrick, Quez Watkins, even like Travis Fulgham will be floating around. You don't need to have those wide receivers on your team. They do nothing for you. They just clog roster spots. I am never going in a deal and saying, hey man, can you just put that guy in the back of the deal? Like, let me get Quez Watkins on my team. I want nothing to do with those guys. Most of the time they don't pan out. Again, we've had this video before, but I have a guy like Jeff Wilson on here because Jeff Wilson, if things crack the right way on the 49ers, he comes in there and gives you 15 points per game for like 6 weeks, and you paid, maybe you got him off waivers. You got him like the 28th round of a startup. So the payoff is much more easy for these running backs, and they don't even have to be good at football, which is the crazy thing. Now, The reason why I took 3 wide receivers in this draft is because I needed wide receiver help. So we went Garrett Wilson at the 104. We had London and Burks gone. We took George Pickens at the 112. Again, I don't love that range, but Pickens is like my 107, so him falling there is great for me. And then I don't even love Christian Watson, but Christian Watson anywhere in the second round, like 201, 202, 203, great value there. And on top of that, Christian Watson, I was debating taking him at the 112, but Christian Watson gets back to us, and Christian Watson stacks with Aaron Rodgers. So that's really nice. You get a nice little correlated ceiling there with your quarterback to wide receiver. Now, I feel really good about this wide receiver group. Again, you'd want it to be a little bit more robust, but I think I have enough running backs that it's not a huge issue. I also don't have enough premium running backs that I like feel sort of like it's a liability, right? That like you don't want to have a team where it's like Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara. Those guys are all like top 5 to 6 startup picks in terms of like rounds. So top 5 to 6 round startup picks, and their value could tank at any minute. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Miles Sanders, Cordell Patterson, any of those values go to 0. It doesn't hurt me at all. So with this team, again, immediate contender, strong at running back, strong at quarterback. Rare team where I'm weak at wide receiver, but we do have Tyreek Hill, who's going to give us like 20 point per game upside. I will say that I don't love, Tyler Lockett at wide receiver 2. I do like to have, like a top 12 option and then a top 24 option. Then you can have whatever you want in the flex. So, ideally my wide receiver is a top 24 guy, but again, with this team, I don't really have anything to work with. My 2023 second is gone. I don't think I have a ton of, expendable pieces. I can't give up Albert O because he's starting. I don't think I can give up any non-starters. Like maybe I could give up like a junk offer, or I could give up like, I'm trying to think, like I could do like maybe Tyler Lockett and Joku and something else, and maybe try and like jump up for maybe like a Mike Williams or something. But I think that with this team, we're just going to have to kind of hope that of those 3 wide receivers, one of them pops and is kind of like Amon-Ra St. Brown or Elijah Moore, Jalen Waddle, and just gives us a top 24 season to work with. Now, the tight end's not great. Again, love Alberto to death, but I have him on like every single one of these teams. I really wanted to get from Akash. He is refusing to let me get Kelsey, and he's smart for it. Travis Kelsey in a tight end premium is giving you like 25 points per game on a weekly basis. Any market value that you could trade him at probably isn't worth getting off of that advantage in a league. I offered him Albert O in the 104 for Kelsey. He got that declined. I offered him Albert O in a 2023 first for Kelsey, declined. So that just wasn't happening. That was one of the few spots where I was willing to give up a 2023 first. If I can give up Albert O in a 23 first to get into Kelsey, I'll do that all day long. Again, I kind of need to get a little bit creative with how I want to sort of upgrade my wide receiver 2 spot. Maybe like I'm even trying to think right now on the fly here, because I can't give up 2 wide receivers. I'm not in that position, and I don't want to give up anybody that would play in my flex, like Cordell Patterson, Miles Sanders, Clyde. So it's tough. Maybe there's an Njoku guy out there. I'm not sure. I don't want to give up a 2023 first, but it might come to that. It depends kind of how I'm looking midseason, but I do think that Tyler Lockett will be enough to get to the playoffs with this team. Now we have our next league here, the Founding Fathers League. This is one of my favorite leagues. This is the first. Wow, we're at 52 minutes right now. We have, I think, 2 teams to go. That's fine. I think that this might be like an hour 30 by the time it's done. But we're going to talk about the Founding Fathers League. This is the first ever Dynasty Startup League. I love all the guys that are in here, and I respect the hell out of them for, like being in the Discord. Like this may be at a point where we had like 30 guys in the Discord and we got together a Dynasty team. A lot of these guys are really cool guys that still tune into the channel, and I still talk with today. Really cool guys. And this is what I would call a classic Ron Stewart, especially a classic Ron Stewart at that time team where I just have wide receivers out the ass. You have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins stacked up. Wide receiver 2, wide receiver 11. I've tried numerous times to get the Joe Burrow owner to trade me Joe Burrow. I've given him some decent offers. He won't budge at all. We have 3 top 12 wide receivers with Jamar, T. Higgins, Deebo Samuel. We have 2 other top 24 guys in underdog ADP in Godwin and Michael Thomas. We have Ayuk, Claypool, Jacoby Myers rotating into the flex spot. We also drafted Drake London. Like the wide receiver room on this team is really, really nice. Now, this is, if you want to just kind of talk about the origin of this team, this is a 0 RB team that was a productive struggle last year. So pretty much kind of what we were looking at with the first team. This is a spot where, I'm looking to compete. I think this is a really good team, right? It really depends on when Deshaun Watson plays, but the wide receivers are so strong, plus Kittle, who's a very strong tight end, that I think that it is good enough to compete. Now, for that reason, I don't love Chris Godwin. I would love to pivot off him. He's not going to be playing in those first few weeks with the ACL injury. We don't really know how much that's going to affect him. I will just say, nobody in this league wants Chris Godwin. It sucks, man. I'm trying to get rid of Chris Godwin for like a top 20 wide receiver price. Couldn't do it. I felt like I was underselling with a guy today where I tried to sell him Chris Godwin for Keenan Allen and Devin Singletary. Let me know if I was out of line with that. I didn't think that was that crazy. I also think I tried like Chris Godwin and a 211 for Chase Edmonds and Mike Evans. That couldn't happen either, so just tough. But this is a classic, zero RB, productive struggle type team in year 2, looking to compete this year. Again, want to get a top 12 option at wide receiver, looking a little bit tough there. But this is also a team where I probably need, another option at running back, right? We are looking a little bit rough. We have RB32 and Tony Pollard, but then we have Khalil Herbert, RB48. So pretty tough. Now, I will say there's a lot of like quality dart throws here, right? We have Khalil Herbert, Kenneth Gainwell. We have I actually like Deontay Foreman more than Chuba Hubbard. I think that if Christian McCaffrey goes down, it'll be Deontay Foreman's show. But we have like Jamar Jefferson, Keenan Wangwu. Like we have some interesting guys off the bench. Damian Williams, a guy I really like. With now that they cut Mike Davis, it's literally just Damian Williams, Cordarrelle Patterson, and Tyler Algier. All he has to beat out is a like Cordarrelle Patterson, who's not going to play the majority of his snaps at running back, and a 5th-round rookie. So if Damian Williams is any good, that's a good spot for him. But again, I in week 1, you can't make the playoffs if you are just going to like lose the first 3 weeks because you don't have a running back to use. So it's a little tough here. I need to get a running back. I think that, again, I'm pretty tempted to use Godwin for a running back upgrade because I do think that this team, the thing is, I can't do Godwin straight up for a running back. It probably needs to be Godwin for a wide receiver back and then a running back. I really do want to maintain like 4 or 5 top 24 options at wide receiver with this team. But I was thinking, maybe like a 23 second for a Miles Sanders or a Clyde Edwards-Helaire, or add something to a 23 second like Claypool or Ayuk plus a 23 second and go get like a Derrick Henry, who, by the way, I don't even hate Derrick Henry as a buy. If he's cheaper than Dalvin Cook and Kamara and those guys, I'm into the Derrick Henry for that reason. I actually just drafted him in that analyst startup that's a Campus to Canton league. We drafted him like 604, which is a great price for him when you realize on Underdog he is the RB3 in ADP. He is, behind McCaffrey and Jonathan Taylor, he is the next best option in terms of scoring the most points. Now, I'll be honest, I won't have him RB3 in my redraft rankings, but this far out, I do just kind of respect ADP in terms of how the market sees these players, panning out in 2022. Now, this team, we're set at tight end. We have Kittle. Don't have to worry about it. QB is a little bit weak. We have Deshaun Watson. We have Ryan Tannehill now, who I traded the 204 straight up for Ryan Tannehill. That was a move where, again, 204, I think that this was a little bit more justified at the 204. If you are at the 204 and Christian Watson, Jahan Dotson, David Bell, James Cook, and Rachaad White are all gone, I want to move out of there because you're looking at picking like Dameon Pierce. I personally have Wandale Moore. I have Wandale Robinson at the 204. Or not at the 204, but my next best guy in the rankings there. The only issue is I know in most places you can get Wandale Robinson for the 208 to 212, like in that range. So I don't really want to pay an early second for a guy that can be had in the late second, if that makes sense. So I did look around to see where I could kind of move that 204. For what it's worth, I have Wandale Robinson ranked behind Ryan Tannehill anyways in a vacuum. So 204 away for Tannehill. Now we have 2 pretty solid quarterbacks. It just comes down to when Deshaun Watson, plays football, the suspension, everything. You guys will see I have a stupid amount of exposure to Deshaun Watson. I just kept on buying him for cheap during the suspension. I will say I'm a little bit overexposed at this point. I think I have 6 out of my 9 leagues have Deshaun Watson on them, which really isn't good. You want to be probably under like 35, 40%. I mean, it's an elite quarterback, so you can kind of push it a little bit, but if he goes down or like something takes a weird turn in his case or whatever, I'm pretty much screwed. So the minute that he steps onto the field, I will be looking to offload him and just kind of diversify into other young elite quarterbacks. But for now, I'm holding on until he plays football. Again, Tannehill, Goff, I think that it should be okay. Again, I think that by week 1, in the summer, I have it on my to-do list is to go out there and kind of send, a 2023 second for a running back. Maybe this rookie draft is still ongoing, so maybe like a 211 and a 304 and go out there and get a low end, a guy like Miles Sanders, CEH again. But we'll see. This team has 223 first saved away. I think, we can kind of maybe make the playoffs this year, and then the year after that, 2023 first should be locked and loaded to be, contending for a good amount of time with this team. A lot of really stud wide receivers. Just need to kind of lock in a running back, maybe one more elite quarterback. Now, we're going to talk about our last team here. And this is a pretty weird team. And I'm not going to lie with you guys. I have debated leaving this team before, or league before, but it's one that I just can't quit. It's one that I started, I think it was like my second ever Dynasty team. And it was before I did YouTube. It was just a random Dynasty league on Reddit. And the commissioner is really great. He is a really good commissioner on there. He's on top of everything. Like the biggest thing is with those random like Reddit leagues is you need to just have a commissioner who is on top of people. Like especially with randoms, you need them to be able to like hound down people and like you got to pay this, whatever. He's on top of everything and is great. So I remained in this league. I want to see this team through, and I will admit, this team, looking at the screenshot, kind of a mess. We have Deshaun at quarterback. Again, of course, we have Deshaun at quarterback. And then absolutely nothing. We have Gardner Minshew, Mason Rudolph. Not a great look. This is, again, a classic, tried and true, 0 RB productive struggle team. Again, this is kind of all I used to build. Now, again, you guys have seen, my startup draft with Danny, and I've kind of showed you guys other startup drafts. I don't always draft like this. I actually, as of recently, I don't draft like this. I was kind of under the mindset last year that, productive struggle was the way to go. And yes, it's the way to go. But if you join, like last year, I think I joined like maybe 3 or 4 startups. If you join 3 or 4 startups and you're going to do a productive struggle, don't do it in all of them. It's not fun to like have I think I had last year like 5 Dynasty teams and like only like one of them was really trying to compete. But yeah, this team's a mess. Deshaun Watson at quarterback, then absolutely nothing. 0 running back productive struggle team. We got nothing at running back. We got Keyshawn Vaughn, who I think is a very firm sell of mine. And then we have Joshua Kelly, Matt Breida, Travis Homer. Like, it is just a very ugly spot there. We have 3 running backs who I'm debating cutting at this point. But wide receiver's pretty fun, right? We have T. Higgins, Elijah Moore. I have Bateman as a soft sell. He's not someone I love, and he's sort of been getting steamed lately since the Marquise Brown trade. So he's somebody I don't mind moving. I know a lot of guys in this league kind of like Rashad Bateman. We have Cortland Sutton, Ayuk, a bunch of fun guys that can kind of take a leap up. Nothing really great there. And then we have Kyle Pitts at tight end. Now, this team, when you look at it, most of its value is sunk into 2022. So we have 5 2022 firsts again. And I hope that this is helpful because I know a lot of you guys are going to have teams like this where you tanked year 1 and have like 5 2022 firsts and the draft class ended up being garbage. So it's like, what do we do from here? And we have 4 2023 firsts. I will not be touching those 2023 firsts until then. Maybe, someone like blows me away with an offer, but for now, I'm chilling on that. I will take 4 guys in that next class. That is, if that class pans out the way we think it's going to pan out, I'm good with, instead of like, this year I've been trying to just take like 1 to 2 guys every round. Next year I'm cool with like 3, 4, 5, whatever. All those guys look like studs. I think that later in this week I'm actually going to talk about the 2023 class. Now, again, 6 top 13 picks in this class. We have the 101, 105, 109, 110, 112, 201. I do not like those picks. Again, I have the hard sells as those 109, 110, 112, 201 as just the the ranges of the draft I don't like at all. 101, 105, I'm open to moving off of them, but I don't need to. Now with this team, I think this is another team like before where I think that this is in a good spot with the 101 to try and move the 101 into a a difference-making quarterback, like an untouchable type quarterback. And I'll be honest with you guys, I wrote this outline. I wrote like half of this outline on, I think, Saturday night, and I wrote the other half this morning on Monday. I think this is going to be up on Tuesday. But what I was thinking in my head was like 101, 109, 110, and Cortland Sutton for a Lamar/Kyler type guy. And after that, I sort of sent out offers similar to that for Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, for Kyler Murray. And the guy who had Kyler Murray ended up, kind of going back and forth with me. I will say that his counters were kind of outrageous. Like he was asking for the 101, 109, 110, I believe like Rashad Bateman and Cortland Sutton for Kyler Murray and like Rondale Moore. It was pretty crazy. But I ended up talking him down from that. The trade talks actually stalled really hard. And then he just said send your best offer that you'd be willing to send. And I'll kind of check it out in the morning. And I sent him my 101, 109, 112, and Cortland Sutton for Kyler Murray. Now, I'm going to show that on the screen here. And I know it seems like a lot. 4 for 1 is not ideal, especially in a rebuild where you kind of would rather have that scatter shot of 4 and just kind of take your shots, and just kind of hope that one of those 4 can just kind of replicate that value. But the market had it about even. I put it on Twitter, 266 votes. People actually sided with the Kyler Murray side in that deal. Again, I'm not opposed to taking Breece Hall. If I didn't get that deal to come through, I would have just taken Breece Hall. But I really wanted a quarterback on this team. This team only had Deshaun Watson, then Gardner Minshew, and it was one of those things where I gotta be honest with you guys. I've been trying to get a second quarterback for like the past 6 months on this team. Nothing's moving. Couldn't get it done. Again, I like having those two elite quarterbacks. You get a ton of, you get a huge advantage on a weekly basis, and then you also get, untouchable assets that you can sell for boatloads of cash. Remember, there was a point in time where like Russell Wilson was pushing like for like the QB1 in Dynasty. You just need an efficiency spike from your quarterback, and he can just rocket up to QB1 untouchable status pretty easily. I'm trying to think of who else we saw it from, but we saw it with like Lamar. We saw it with even like Aaron Rodgers kind of shot up places during his MVP year. Now, I don't love Courtland Sutton, not big on him. And then also we get rid of 2 picks in a range I don't love. Again, the 109 and the 112 to lock in Kyler. So we give up the 101 and then we give up 3 assets that I'm not huge on. Now again, that's a fat price to pay. I will say if I had Kyler in the league and someone came to me with this offer, I wouldn't accept it. I would need more. I would need, like, again, those 109, 112 don't do it for me. I would probably need like a 105 in the mix. Maybe like make the 109 a 105. I think then I would probably take it, but I think it's still pretty close. I think I would still lean like I just want the advantage of having 2 elite quarterbacks. Now, again, I think that this team is set forever at quarterback. We have Deshaun Watson. We have Kyler Murray. Also, let me show you guys the team real quick. I did an updated team view. So this is what we look like now, right? So we have Kyler Murray there. We have Deshaun Watson. We have Kyle Pitts, Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson. Another team where we are locked and loaded at quarterback and tight end, the onesie positions. The goal with this team is to just build up wide receiver, and then when it's time to compete, we go buy the running backs. And I don't think that we're ready to compete at this point, right? We have the wide receivers where it's T. Higgins, we have Elijah Moore. We have one top 12 guy, a fringe top 24 guy. If this team had running backs, I think that the wide receivers would be fine, but because we have Keyshawn Vaughn at RB1, I don't think it's there yet, and I don't think the 105 is enough to get us there, right? We can grab Wilson, Burks, London. I think 110, 201. Again, I don't love those spots, but I can get like a Pickens, Dotson, Christian Watson in those areas. But I don't think that that'll be enough to compete. Now, I might be underselling myself, and maybe like Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, Kyle Pitts, and maybe like T. Higgins gives us like a top 5 fantasy season. Maybe I could limp my way, but I still think that that's rough. I'd probably need like an Ayuk renaissance. I would need some things to break right for me. And don't get me wrong, if like things happen where we come out the gate and like Deshaun Watson plays every game this year, and T. Higgins lighting the world on fire, and some of these players take a step forward, I'll kind of reevaluate things. Maybe look to move off of. I have 2023 seconds to play around with that I can definitely move for running backs if I need. I have 2023 first. I can move for like elite players if I need. I think this is a team where I will be honest with you guys. When I have a team like this that's like a former productive struggle that has a ton of picks, I have 2 elite quarterbacks, I have an elite tight end, I have pretty much everything locked in place, and I'm staring down, for 2023 first. And you just kind of got to think to yourself, what could those turn into? And I think that probably could turn into like if I wanted it to, like Eckler, Derrick Henry, Keenan Allen, Mike Evans, and like Michael Thomas, and I could probably have a pretty loaded lineup. So it's like, what's stopping you from doing that? But at the same time, that's a very like short-sighted way to build a team. I don't know. It's something that you kind of have to go back and forth with yourself. Like 2023 firsts are so valuable that I think that is a pathway with some of these teams where you can have a bare bone roster like this. And not a bare bone roster, but you have quarterback locked in, you have tight end locked in. You really just need like a top 12 running back, a top 24 running back, a top 12 wide receiver, and then you're probably there, and you have 4 2023 firsts and 3 2023 seconds to spend. So why wait until 2023 to contend? And that's something that's been on my mind, but I do think it's probably a misuse of your assets to cash those in now to try and push towards a championship that it's tough to like guarantee that you'll even win. And then you could be out of your 2023 first. Keenan Allen could fall off a cliff. Mike Evans could be, Mike Evans disrespected like wide receiver 30 range of dynasty leagues. And you could just lose a lot of team value that way for just like a 1-year window at a title. So that's where my head's at. I think that you can be more sustainable long term by not doing that. Now, again, I don't think that this team, maybe Kyler and Deshaun can drag me to the playoffs. Probably not. We'll then be using those 2023 first on that draft class, and then 2023 will be the year for this team like the other one. Now, that's going to do it for us today. I think that is going to be a record for maybe, actually, I'm not sure. I really don't know. If you count drafts and startup drafts and mock drafts and stuff, it's probably not our longest video. But in terms of like analysis and me talking through teams and stuff, longest video yet. Now, if you made it this far, I really appreciate you. If you want to be a part of the community, I got the Discord down below in the description. Discord's free to join. You can hop in there. I'm in there. I'll chop it up sometimes. So I was actually talking through a couple of the trades I made on here in the Discord. I'll talk through like on the Grade My Trade channel. A lot of cool stuff there. If you want access to my rankings, so like all the guys that have like soft sell, hard sell, all that stuff, that's all in my Dynasty rankings. Also on Patreon, patreon.com/Ron Stewart. You can get access to that. A lot of other cool stuff. And also, one last thing. If you listen to these things, I know I just rambled for an hour. Probably don't even want to look at my face by the time that you're done with this. I listen to most of my fantasy content through the audio. So I've been trying to get better about putting these episodes out on my podcast. So I have like all of them on audio versions on Apple Music or Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcast, I think like Google Play as well. So any of those, you can get that in the description down below, and it'll send you to one of those links, and you can listen there. If you do have like a long commute in the morning, you'd rather listen there. But that's going to do it for us today. If you made it this far, man, I really do love you. If you have any suggestions for any of my teams, I'd actually love to hear them in terms of, what you think is the move here, future moves, all that stuff. I'm curious to know. I think it's good to have, another set of eyes on your teams. Just kind of see, if I'm overlooking something, it's like, oh, this is actually a movable piece here. You can move this guy and you can kind of really upgrade your starting lineup there. So that is all. A lot of rambling today. And as always, I will see you guys in the next one.
I got the juice, I got the juice.
Channel, Chatham's on. Foolies glad I'm home. Even my haters kinda glad I'm on. Rest in peace to my vagabond. Rapper, song, singer, suspended, subpoena from Mr. Meaner.